Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Moss, host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. Thank you so much in advance for joining us. Today we got an excellent show. Before I get to that, I hope that you're having a great day leading into a Thursday, Friday. I'm telling you, the weekend is going to just shooting through. But today, brothers and sisters, I thought for our What It Do Wednesday, I thought I would move back a little bit. I would delve into some things that we haven't talked about in quite a long time. So I have pulled out for the purposes of our subject title, our subject matter today. Is it time to separate from America as we know it? I decided to do some taboo, brothers and sisters. I decided to deep into the well of critical race theory as espoused by Brother Derek Bell from his infamous and famous and brilliant book, Faces from the Bottom of the Well. We're going to be talking about the famous, what they call fairy tale, Afrolantica. Afrolantica. A place where its environmental and geometric location only allowed for black people to be there. Think about that a minute. That the separation was not legal, the separation was not mandated, but somehow in the law and order of human nature and Mother Nature, that the black man had a place to be separate, to be evolved, to feel empowered, to feel inspired, and not be under the scrutiny and sometimes the trial and tribulations of American law and jurisprudence. So we're going to talk about that. You know, what's been going on lately, and we've been talking about this, and, you know, with the situation as we see it, the assault on voting rights, the assault on education, issues with healthcare, you know, it's become more and more apparent that the people at the top don't necessarily know what they're doing. And if we're saying if there's a pecking order, you know, where do your interests lie? I have a very, very strong feeling they don't lie with people who look like me. They don't lie with Native Americans. They don't align particularly with Latinos, brothers and sisters. And so the question that we ask, not beg, ask is it time to separate from America as we know it? Now, a lot of people are thinking, oh, this is racist. It's not racist. It's not racist at all. And I'm going to give you some historical connotations to the fact that there have been movements much like Afrolantica. See, Afrolantica, brothers, this is actually, you know, it's a made up scenario out of the deep well of information of critical race theory. We are going to talk about that, but inshallah, I'm actually going to be able to connect it to some real life things that some of us either didn't know or some of us forgot about. Okay? So let me lay that out there first. That's number one. Number two is, I don't want people to get offended. Don't be offended that people think differently. Don't be offended that people think creatively, especially when it comes to their own agency. The feeling of wanting to be free, the feeling of wanting to have equity, the feeling that you want to make sure that there's a life for your children after you leave this earth. That they don't have to necessarily go through the persecution and skullduggery of racism in the United States and white supremacy that we had to go through. Isn't it natural that you want something better? You know, I've never had a situation scenario where I see something and that thing that I see, if it's a good thing, I want it for somebody else. You know, when I give salams to Muslims, I give it to non-Muslims. Because I want that peace to be upon you from God, just like I want the peace to be upon you from God for the Muslims. So I say it all the time. And unequivocally, brothers and sisters, unequivocally, it has good results, but at the same time, it brings to mind that there are people who don't want you to have peace. They don't want you to have education. They damn sure don't want to have justice. And they definitely don't want you to have real estate. So for this, whatever, half hour, we might go 32 minutes. I don't know, brothers and sisters. But I'm going to make the case, if you will. Now, I know a lot of people might say, well, what are you doing, preacher? This comedy? It is a theater of comedy, but I'm not going to touch the jokes to it. I'm going to let the irony, if you will, just linger and linger and saute in the mind of the American public. And I'm going to challenge everybody that's on the show that you're going to have to think way differently. African Americans are going to have to think way differently. African American Muslims, way differently. Immigrant Muslims, you're going to have to think way differently. And white people, you're going to have to think completely the opposite. Because these things I'm going to say, if I do it correctly, it's almost like a magic trick. If I do it correctly, you will see the logic, not that I'm putting out there, but you'll see the logic that people have been looking at for years. And more importantly, as history tends to be about those who write it, this is the blueprint. The blueprint that's out there that we don't necessarily know about. That we're not necessarily, I want to say, resourcing, if you will. So I want to make sure that we are talking at that level as well. All right, so listen, we got a lot of show to cover today. So I'm going to go ahead and start the show. Thank you so much. I'm the Preacher Moss. This is the SOS talking about Afro-Atlantica. Go ahead and hit it. Satana. We'll be right back. And we're back here on the SOS. Before we get started, we want to make sure we welcome our SOS family, our SOS soldiers into the building. Stars in the building time. Satana, who we got today? We got Sister Ree. How you doing, Sister Ree? Good to see you on the show. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to you. And peace and blessings to you and your family. You know we love you here on the show. And thank you so much for being such a long-time supporter. Peace and blessings to you. Next up, my main man, Altaf Rashid, Mr. 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down, the Canadian ambassador to the Shout Out Show, the only show that has a Canadian ambassador. Thank you so much for joining the show. I would encourage everybody to open your minds up and have some opinions on this particular episode. Altaf, thanks for coming. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Next up, we got my little brother Johnny L. Thomas, JT. This is probably one of the conversations we would have had on the road going to a gig down in Illinois on Route 57. But we're going to talk about it here on the show, a shout out show today. I hope you can appreciate it. This is dedicated to people like yourself and Reginald Kitchen and my dad, my mom, and folks like that, and Mr. Harry Weber. We're going to take it there today. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, little brother. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Next up, what's going on, Sister Aika? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Reporting all the way in with good news on a health screening for her family. I am very proud of you. I hope everybody's still healthy. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thanks so much for joining us on the show. Sister Aika all the way from Depok, Indonesia. Next up, Bilal Salahuddin. My brother, what is a show without the Salahuddin family? It's just not a show. We appreciate you coming, brother. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope you like the nature of this show. This is how I get in trouble as a comedian, brothers and sisters. This is why people don't like critical race theory. I'm going to show exactly why you don't like it as soon as we finish introducing everybody. So shout out to Salahuddin family. Next up, and we have our consultant producer, Mr. Satana Whitfield. Thank you for joining us on the show and making sure that this presentation goes off as much as it can without a hitch. So we appreciate you. Thank you so much, Sister Satana. Okay. The question is it time to separate from America as it is? Now, the truth of the matter is, what does that look like? We don't know. What does the framework of separating from America as we know it? And I say it's America as we know it because we have certain benchmarks. People, when they attack your ability to vote, they attack your ability to have self-expression. They attack your ability to control where your dollars go. They attack your ability to question government. I mean, this is really, really deep. The vote is a very spiritual thing, if you think about it. The democracy, if you will, separates for the fact that people in the wrong space and times with the wrong influences will think, let's say it, they'll think they God. And they'll say, you know what? I know I'm God because look at the votes. People voted I was God. They voted he wasn't God. That's the way people begin to think today. plus the fact that it's an overall move away from logic. The one thing that grounds people of color, I say people or oppressed communities in the United States, is that you have a very profound, developed, nuanced understanding of logic because you see so much of it void in the decisions that are levied against you. So with that being stated, I want to go ahead and get started. Is it time to separate from America as we know it? The question is, can you? Can you separate from America? Brothers and sisters, I present to you from Faces at the Bottom of the Well, one of the greatest storytellers, racial fairy tales. It's called Afro-Atlantica. It seems real when you talk about the volcano that erupted outside of Tonga. Now Tonga is cut off. So this is interesting. So bear with me. The story goes that outside the coast of America, in the middle of the sea, there's an eruption, if you will. And what scientists are saying is they believe that a landmass on the bottom of the ocean is now rising up. And they avoid it for a while, but after a while they can't avoid it anymore because this landmass is rising up, almost like Atlantis. Remember the story of Atlantis, but it was at the bottom of the sea? Now it's rising up. And America, whenever there's some land, there's going to be some land developers. And of course, they send people to see if that land's inheritable. Can they build on it? Things like that. But a strange thing happens as they begin to send people to explore the land. They send an exploration team there, and guess what happens? The team gets there, and they start having breathing problems. They can't breathe. They're almost passing out. They have to leave the island. They can't stay there. They send another group, same thing happens. Another group, same thing happens. They decide to go underneath the water to see if they can go into the entrance of this landmass underwater. And they have some deep sea divers that go out. And this is what happens. The deep sea divers get into this little canal and they take off their mask and they start passing out. And they actually, brothers and sisters, totally pass out. They're unconscious. What saves them is Ensign Martin Suffolk. He decides to tie all of them together and he pulls them into the ship and he saves them. He's held as a hero. He says, no, I was doing my job. Here is the thing that you must know. All the people that passed out were white. Brother Ensign was black. And people are going, well, you were in the same space. You didn't even have on your equipment. How did they pass out? You didn't pass out. And so the question begins to loom, why is it that the black guy didn't pass out and the white people did pass out? And so as a whim, they sent 4 black people in a helicopter. The pilot was a black female. And they land on the island. They open up with no equipment, no breathing apparatus. And they realize that this island is paradise. Woo! Them white folks are mad. Them white folks, these Negroes is on the island, breathing good, we passing out. Something in the environment would not let them come into the island. But these Negroes are having a good time, breathing. They probably getting free cable. I don't know what it is, but these white folks are mad. And word gets back to America. And black folks go, wait a minute. You mean there's an island we can go to? We ain't got to worry about white people? We ain't got to worry about white police? We ain't got to worry about white politicians? We ain't got to worry about white finance? We ain't got to worry about white supremacy? Meaning that the environment of the island will biologically keep these people out. Boy, them Negroes went crazy. They said, we got to get up out of here. It was a new migration, brothers and sisters. But with this new migration, there was problems. The problem wasn't from the pro-immigration black folk. It was from the white folk, who somehow felt that it was unfair that these black folks should be able to go and enjoy this island, but they couldn't. That somehow these people, brothers and sisters, were criminal and unpatriotic because they only thought of themselves. That they were not upholding the Constitution for everybody, the ability to go to the island only themselves. You black folk, you Negroes were selfish. Selfish. And you know the hustle. They tried to find good black leaders that would talk down this leaving America, going to this island. And they put the money out there and the scandals out there, but it didn't work. Communities of black folks said, we're not going to go for it. We know this. It's almost like Moses, and the lady in the book saying the story goes, there's a Moses in all of us. And they raised their money, and they got an armada of ships, 1,000 ships to go to this island. Spoiler alert, as they went to this island, brothers and sisters, as they got closer and closer, the weather got bad. There was a mist, and as it got closer and closer, the island sunk back into the ocean. It wasn't there. The island left. And these black people in this armada ships had to turn around and come back. And there was still black people that didn't go. You know, it's going to be some Negroes that didn't go. And they came back, and they didn't commiserate and talk about the blues, but they talked about the euphoria, if you will, of doing something that was liberating, of doing something that was different. Let me tell you something, brothers and sisters, and I don't mean this to be wrong. A lot of times my shows are about race, my lectures are about race, but I take a certain joy in liberating my mind, knowing that somewhere, someplace, I have caused a sense of anxiety and pain for people who believe in white supremacy. I am not alone. I'm not alone. Brother Paul Cuff, in the 1800s, Massachusetts, refused to pay his taxes. You know why? Because he wanted representation for black folk. And he pulled his money and he tried to take black folk to the islands, to Haiti, to get away from the suppression. And you know what was interesting about that island, the Afro-Atlantica? You know what that thing that black folk felt that was so beautiful? It was going to a place, knowing that you were there, knowing that the surroundings did not despise you. The same could be said for Martin Delaney. The same thing could be said for Marcus Garvey. We've all gone to this mystical, magical place, brothers and sisters, in our mind. So the question is it time to separate from America as we know it? Yes. This is not the same America. No. We are entitled to self-preservation, self-exploration, and self-evolution. Yes. And just the same as that island went down, you have to have what we say a catalyzing moment, a galvanizing moment, brothers and sisters, where yes, the island sank, but when we came back to the shore, we were empowered. Our brotherhood was stronger. Our sisterhood was stronger. Our religious commitment was stronger. Our political intelligence was stronger. Our financial wherewithal was larger. Because we've been told we can't do these things. Now, I even throw this out here because people think, oh, no. Let me tell y'all something, brothers and sisters. This is not a fairy tale. This is not a fairy tale. Listen to me carefully. This is not a fairy tale. Black folk have been asking this question for a very long time. And God bless them, they've done things to make it happen. But you got to get in your history books. You got to look around. You got to be a little bit of a sleuth, brothers and sisters, because this feeling that we're hearing now, Omicron and white oppression and protests and black police brutality, these things, brothers and sisters, are meant to break your spirit, break your soul, to give you a sense of helplessness. You can't have it no more. You have to enjoy the feeling of causing pain and misery and anxiety for those who have no love for you. I want you to have nightmares of me laughing and smiling with my family on the land that I own, in front of the house that I paid for, while you live in a, I don't know, trailer park, and your house is held up with cinder blocks. I love the visual. Don't hate me because I'm good. Don't hate me because I'm creative. Don't hate me because I have initiative. Nah, don't do that. Hate yourself. You will make the world a much better place. So let me throw this out, folks. Because some people say, preach, you're pulling it, you just, no, I'm not pulling it out of here. I'm not just throwing facts out, brothers and sisters. See, the DNA is here. See, when you talk about history in America, we talk about big history, talk about Martin Luther King, we talk about, look at the small history that you miss. November 1969. Let me say it again. November 1969. Legal case. Wallace versus Brewer. Wallace versus Brewer. Does that mean anything to you? No? Okay. Well, here's the deal. In 1969, a group of black Muslims in St. Clair County, Alabama, decided to buy a tract of land. 356 acres. They were going to farm it. They were going to have animals. They were going to do things. This is part of the big program back in the day with the NOI, brothers and sisters. They bought the tract of land in May. In November, white folks found out that these Negroes done bought this land. And they got animals on the land. And they gonna do things we ain't never done with the land, like make it productive and raise cattle and raise chickens and do commerce and be businessmen. And as a result, brothers and sisters, they were sued. The lawyer who drew up the papers was arrested. The group called the Progressive Land Developers, they were actually all locked up, arrested. Uh-oh, wait a minute, brothers. Oh, here we go. So, Satana, can we go to a commercial real quick? Satana, can we go to a commercial real quick? Hey, babies. Welcome to Radio WCUC, Convenient Urgent Care, home of the smart patient. This is DJ What It Do. You know what time it is. It's the top of the hour, and the request lines are open. You know what you want to hear. I know what you want to hear. Operators are waiting.
I just got to hear don't get the COVID.
Don't get the COVID. Put your mask back on. The Delta COVID, more contagious than before. Don't get the COVID. Go on and get the vaccine. You know that it can keep you safe. And your people living up in your space. Don't get the COVID. You need to wash your hands. The Delta COVID is more deadly than before. Don't get the COVID. Go on and get your vaccine. You know that it can keep you from dying. Don't leave your family all alone and crying. Don't get the COVID.
We invite you to join our fight against COVID and against misinformation. It's time to listen to the doctors and trust the science.
When I think of people dying that don't have to die, it makes me sad. Now's the time to be sober. Together we can make this thing over. Let's fight the COVID. Convenient urgent care, home of the smart patient.
All right, we're back. Thanks so much, Satana, for that save. We appreciate you. So I'm talking about this case, which is Wallace versus Brewer. And the interesting thing that I want people to know very, very clearly is about not just what were black people going through before, but black Muslims were going through at the end of the 1960s. They bought this tract of land in St. Clair County, Alabama. Now, people were upset that they bought the land. Why? They enacted a law that said that these people should be arrested, number one, on the fact that they were communists. Number two, failure to register as a Muslim in the county basically discredited them from being able to own the property. Now, long story short, I'd like to tell you that it all worked out and justice was on his side. No. The people were harassed. They were harassed. They were threatened. People were arrested. Their livestock was either shot or poisoned. They wound up selling off a lot of land. They lost money. But here's the thing I don't want to be lost. It was the idea that they formed a company, a land development company. And they actually bought the land from white men at a fairly good price. And they decided that they were going to use this space, if you will. I know it may sound naive, but they're going to use this space to express themselves as business people and landowners. Unfortunately, they did it here in the United States. I'm not talking about this Wallace versus Brewer being an example of Afro-Atlantica. No, I'm talking about the fact that we, if you will, have to stand pat in the midst of all of this and make people uncomfortable with the fact that we understand your rules, but they're not necessarily our rules. We understand your laws, but they're not necessarily our laws. The laws that make sense, of course, we'll follow, but the laws that don't make sense, the things that you make up out of your extreme imagination, no longer have validity here. I will not give it space in my mental capacity. And just like the black folk that were in those ships on that armada, when the island went down, they found something beautiful. That as much as people may have despised them for wanting freedom, justice, and equality, all those things, they loved themselves that much more. Because that, brothers and sisters, is the thing that separates you from America as you know it. America is not going to change, but you can change. The American justice system is mired in a lot of bad laws, just like the ones in Wallace versus Brewer. Failure to register as a Muslim. And the Lost Foundation fought that one, and they won, brothers and sisters. But there is something even deeper that I want you to think about. The fact that you do have the skill, capacity, and right to make those who try to make you feel uncomfortable, you have a right to make them feel just as uncomfortable. Because they're working with false premises. You're working with the truth. You're working with the talent. The things that people sometimes don't want you to do is because they can't do them themselves. And the only reason they want you to do them is to their benefit. Well, change that thing a little bit. So let's talk about things like our own banking system. Let's talk about bigger real estate companies, just like Progressive Land Development back in 1969. Let's start talking about that. Let's start talking about our own schools, real schools, colleges, universities. Let's pool our money, brothers and sisters, and use the laws that are out there as a barometer. Not for what they think of us, but as a barometer for what we think of us. And I believe if we can do that, brothers and sisters, eventually there will be an Afro-Atlantica or Muslim-Atlantica or Woman-Atlantica. There will be spaces and places where people can go and enjoy themselves because they don't feel oppressed, they don't feel despised, they feel valued, they feel inspired, they feel free. All right, let's wrap up, Satana. We're going to get to our sponsors. We're going to give a shout out to BeFinancialIndependent.com. Again, that's BeFinancialIndependent.com. You can call 1-888-508-3780 on 5780. Again, that's 1-888. I'm sorry, my goodness, it's 202-508-5780. I forget all the time. 202-508-57. Am I getting that right, Satana? No, 3780. So don't call any of those numbers. 202-508-3780. Again, that's 202-508-3780. Okay? If you're looking for quality graduate level education, look no further than Bayan Islamic Graduate School in Claremont, California, with programs in Islamic education, Islamic studies, Islamic leadership, and a wonderful program, the Masters of Divinity, with a focus in Muslim chaplaincy. Check it out. Go to bayanonline.org. Again, that's bayanonline.org. And if you're really feeling good, brothers and sisters, you're going to get the new ad pretty soon, but I want you to start checking out ushub.tv. Again, that's ushub.tv. I'm part of the team. I want you to be part of the team. Looking forward to doing some great things with them. We'll be talking about that throughout the week. Ushub.com. I'm on the team. We want you on the team. All right? And we already talked about convenient urgent care. We're not going to run that ad because we ran it earlier. We're just going to go to our outro. We have a new outro. I hope you like it. Hope you have a little fun. So here's the deal, brothers and sisters. We hope to see you tomorrow. You know, tomorrow's our last show of the week. You know the time, 6 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock on the West Coast. Make sure you tune in. We appreciate you. All right, this is Preach Mars Shout Out Show. See you later. And keep looking for Afrolantica. See you tomorrow. Well, family, that's it for our show today. One of the reasons I felt compelled to make this video, because I noticed when an event is over, Muslims don't know when to leave. So if you're sitting there in front of your television going, that was fun, that was enjoyable, what do I do now? This is me telling you to leave. You know why? Because the show is over. I already left. I taped this before I made it. So you have permission to leave. And you also have permission to come back. To the Shout Out Show, we are Monday through Thursday. Again, that's 6 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 o'clock Central, and of course on the West Coast, 3 o'clock. So we want to thank you for coming on the show, my brothers and sisters. And guess what? This is yet another exercise for you to leave, because I'm out of here. Later.